All right, me ma wakwa about 1 hour with Monofi so na me wogidie say ene obia ho eye enti ene ye da foforo Nyankopon ede ama me ne wa ye ba be streaming 1 hour of our time. Enti me patcho pe shock absorbers na na 7 na eba no edoso. Ene me do be call Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ugina asoro dem a asofo ede omunsa guni so ebo mpa ye ma Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Ene me nim se papa is so a Christo news so ye din ni o. I have no idea. Ebiem yebekwa akohwe Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as ideas dey papa no asa. So the only thing is when you stage bi agina so a then he starts to say things are ono ankasa nim se oboa ontimi enye. Na the final show so na yebese yakpo Jakpa any AG sense mi ya na yahwese yekopie court dem no. AG it me buy ana wantimi ama. All of a sudden Attorney General Yeragor Fedame adan osofo e preachi ewo asori dem mo enti moma yenko na yenhyase Eba just want to say one wakakra. And then the vice president of the land, Kremunino, because of political power and papai adan Christian by force, akojina sori dem a asofo do monsa egu Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia so a ye bom paya money because papai person be president. Anyway, we be saying say doctor na we see ni den a osu ojo mama ye president danti mama me so me president. Na afidi me hwese na president dey because my vice president John Mama ye vice president I president nti mama me so me president na afidi me hwe nti Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said the only reason why he wants to be president is John Mama ye president and German me president na on so on. Now we want to discuss something Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia say when he become president he will introduce flat tax amnesty by 2025. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia no. Yet under his leadership as head of Ghana's economic management team, no, Ghana introduces a lot of taxes. Taxes are hodwa aba Ghana no. Ghana for a susomu bida, but Mahmoud Bawumia say no. Ontimi nka tax no ho hwe na mo man be president in 2025 any of the tax amnesty be Ghana. Na ebia na sanse mwe onji ni se Mahmoud Bawumia Eneka sanzimwe intimate woko ni kunkuti mfiri Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ankasa anumusem. Ne yeba bi sa Canada Agyapong say Mahmoud Bawumia say or the tax amnesty beba no be make sure say businesses money GRA tax system no nsem no ebeba form na oji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia di ana onje ni na wankasa o businesses no and the NPP aban mo say na o businesses e konti abusia for o me nkoni nkuti Mahmoud Bawumia ansa na ifiriwa yaba Kennedy ohen Agyapong.
GRA and so many businesses and individuals are always in fights over their tax liabilities. And our tax system is too complicated. Sometimes they will bring a tax bill to a business or an individual and they don't even know how it was calculated. And they will tell you if you don't pay, we'll shut down your shop. And they shut down many shops. And so I want a tax system that is easy to understand, very easy to enforce, easy to comply with. I had my team do the research and we looked at all the tax systems in the world to see which is the most tax efficient and most tax competitive. We found that Estonia, the country of Estonia, was the most tax competitive country in the world. The last 10 years, every year they are number one. So I said, what is happening in Estonia? I took a team and we went to Estonia. I went to meet the president, the prime minister, the revenue authorities. We had a series of meetings. And I came back very convinced that Estonia, the model of Estonia, is a flat tax system. Flat tax. If it's 10%, everybody is paying 10%. There's no complication in that calculation. It's 10%. It's like when we go to church and we have to pay tithe. Right? The tithe is 10%, isn't it? Everybody knows how much it is. It's easy to calculate. Sometimes you don't even need a calculator to calculate the 10%. So Estonia has found that this flat tax system has really helped them in making sure everybody is covered in paying the tax, because everybody knows that this is how much you have to pay. So you know your tax. There's no kululu in that matter. It's clearly defined. And therefore, next year, if by the grace of God I am president, we want to introduce the flat tax system. But to start it, I want everybody to start on a clean, fresh plate. Everybody to be on the same page. So next year, we will offer a tax amnesty to all businesses. Forgive all your taxes for businesses and individuals, and we will start on the same page for all businesses and individuals, so that we will get a lot of forgiveness. In fact, a few weeks ago, I went to the Vatican to have audience with His Holiness the Pope. And then after my meeting with the Pope, our Cardinal Peter Texin, who is there, took me around the Basilica to show me different parts of the Basilica. And when we were going around, there were some people doing some work somewhere. And I asked, what is going on here? Cardinal Texin told me, we are making preparations for next year. It is the Jubilee year. I said, what is the Jubilee year? What does it mean? He says, well, this is the year where there's a lot of forgiveness in this year. I said, that is good. Then that means 2025, I'm also going to forgive taxes in Ghana. And it is very consistent with the Jubilee year. So we will have that. And the tax amnesty will be a good injection to many businesses, because it will take off this burden of taxes that they are faced with at the moment. And it will really relieve them. And the next issue I want to deal with in our tax reform is our import duty regime. I found out that there is a problem that, maybe was inadvertently created over the years. There is no predictability in our import duty regime. You can import something and think that you are...
Enti Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ene kasano. Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the current Vice President of Ghana and Ghana's head of economic management team. Ene kasasano, enyini pafofro, enyeme, ene enyewo. And sometimes no papa ikasa me said and say, now Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia himself, only the current Vice President, and also with him, because we need to be asking ourselves these kind of questions. Also with him. He is trying to mean say oba import duty crown obetite so obema tax amnesty and meanwhile you are the current Vice President of the land. Only Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the boom minus for the last 7 years, 8 years, yet papa it make kasate senia enya onene the leader yedeni boom to say no. If I tell you, I'm going to take the Johanna Agyapong, Abra or one cousin no munsam, can the Agyapong ako presidential premise CBO. Chastise or one cousin not buying say, a buying no, use some tax regime and my taxes ego. Young Kone Kennedy Johanna Agyapong and question come.
government MPP. So don't use the word running down.
So, okay, say businessmen should rise against.
Yes.
I said, we inciting who against your party.
Rise against it because what you are near the two of them, what you are, you see, I know by you. System better, Namunyama, team.
I'm also your campaign to run for the primaries, and we are and I said right from the inception of Nanado's government and our experiences.
From time I'm starting 7-day campaign, and and I'll drive with my business. For the youth of this country, I will not keep quiet because the future of the youth is bleak. And then the chair meeting or parliament, I was getting frantic call from my wife, very unusual. Now, excuse you, I'm program. King, Nicoya, as well as Ghana Immigration Services for Afro Ashanti Fee, Afro Chichi India for engineers now, almost fix a machine. So, wow, it has gotten to that. Get it straight. The beer a Juma or Rolling Sabreso, I never experienced. The beer a Juma or President Kufuor Breso, I never experienced. The beer a Juma or Mel Sabreso, I never experienced. The beer a Juma or Mahama Breso, I never experienced. And I have not spent money on MPP government or MPP party than President Kufuor Breso. And they are using this to sabotage and destroy my business.
I say, man, they're okay. Now, what to say? Who person who primaries now by flag bearing?
And to change all these things.
Was our party no?
Yes.
The party you are more or less running down like this.
How am I running them down? They can't put out in a running down. I want them to sit up. So they should check Ghana revenue. Ghana revenue government NTP. So don't use the word running down.
So, okay, say businessmen should rise against. I said, we inciting who against your party.
Rise against it because what you are near the two of them, what you are, you see, I know by you. System better, Namunyama, team.
I'm also starting your campaign to run for the primaries, and we are Shasi and I said,
Sanya what Kennedy Ohene Agyapong and Semno. So under my way, the taxes, and then they use Ghana Revenue Authority to chase you. Eddie Guwajuma. And who is the leader of Sajuman Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia? And then Nana Adodanko Akufo-Addo. What I say? Yet the same person in your opportunity, then he comes back to tell you, say, or no be a president. And obey my service issues. Until the question we are asking now is, does Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia actually know, say, he is the current vice president of Ghana and I said, and I said, because sometimes I get confused about the same person now, position and then Sema Papa in Nama or Kano. And some the Bobra. A bit say, the National Cathedral, who na Ado Danko Akufo-Addo, when Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is she Ghana for boss? Modi mo besi National Cathedral na Nana say ono oni Nyankopon akọ ntam say obeye president obesi National Cathedral e de se Nyankopon oni munyam initially ni Nana ka kire Ghana for say odo no one bottom sika ni besi. It ended up say private people were donating and then government aban sika akọ akuwuram adia sika over 400 billion or so no etimi ya na say etimi to the largest manhole in Ghana. National Cathedral no akawuram yet ho ama board members ni bi ni din eyemienu ne miensa ne maame yemienu ne miensa ne papa yemienu ne miensa okujeto abla kwa aka ma copy court Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia et Ghana say wonte yet yengo bisa Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia say National Cathedral no kwai be na o pese yemfa so ipacho yenko nkwaji Mahmoud Bawumia adwenkyere.
For the National Cathedral, the church should come together and let us know the best way forward, how we can even get private resources to help us to complete the cathedral. But I think it is possible. We should not say it is not possible. Let us all sit back together and figure out the way forward on how to complete this cathedral.
Enti Mahmoud Bawumia say National Cathedral no, it is possible. Na sorry for ne Ghana for nyina mayempe way a yedi besi National Cathedral no. Se be kwa akopɛ private people kwa na ba si cathedral na maya yenkone nkɔhwɛ. Ase papa hinte Ghana ho. Ghana politics, in fact, but we are the politics na do no. Ya kwadu level bi a asa abodam sem na ya adoso. Nipa kropotin na wo ne nam no 8 years ni. Mashe Ghana for mo se musi cathedral adisi ka twitwiri die we. Ade e ha me kora ne se nipa ayema ne drug National Cathedral no. Oyege. Usi da soro na Nyankopon. Wase akwa Nyankopon achi wade nipa. And I draw cathedral and a plan because the only thing say you were creating, looting and share. And Timusu okay, but you will seek a good deal. But I did by say, what they call draw plan be after my and I can say we in a baby see na Sikano yam famau. Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia na nado dango kufu afya Ghana for him as Ghana sika. Papa ye ne ujina simbi so catch say National Cathedral is possible. In Ghana for me MP kwan bi e fa so yede besi National Cathedral e kwan bi ni dey say wo so ye Ghana ni obetuma kire say ebi o me kwan bi na we na mpese e fa so a yesi National Cathedral. I was expecting those kind of ways and he said Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia betuma ka kire say kwan we na me fi e fa so si cathedral na e be boy. Because when somebody loses ideas, when you don't have ideas, when I'm now to be cast and be no jump, then you start to say all those kind of things. That is the kind of person Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia eye. Ono ankasa o lack ideas, oni vision, oni strategy, oni bibia ba onam no te se wo ka se o John Mama so many 60 ministers e betima rana Ghana pa na akotiso or so be so many 50 be. Meanwhile, under your leadership as a vice president no, more than 125 in a year. John Mama say me ba o me yi levy afi ho. Mahmoud Bawumia say oh ye ba yi levy me be president e bitwam. Yet yi levy no wa metu eye wo wa ban mu e na introduce yi levy no. Sometimes Ghana for say mbisa question ha again. Abigail, this is the country called Ghana. The country called Ghana kwana nipa oti ho as the current vice president no. Etimi san she bobi so no be president a obetwam yet e ono na ban e na introduce ye. Enye so beto yo. Ono mom na introduce ye as the vice president, and for that matter, head of Ghana's economic management team. No, ono I introduce at the air say catch them. Me no say what to Obama be president obetwam. Don't say them did no did. It's like or trick you. Na what to about money we are or chedo say we know when you see. The president of the land is kukurumutina what to about a one kasa what they are. Inti se enyo no ne ba be so won sai kwakire so beto ma NDC beto ma NPP so beto ma John Mama beto ma Mahmoud Bawumia eye wan kasa wasem na ado na eka o enye me na meka inti se o betena ase se o de kukurumuti na o de be ma Mahmoud Bawumia na Mahmoud Bawumia be president 2025 a wa ka kire so betwa yi levy na wo so waje dia e wa problem. Now most of them ade aya ha me kwa ne se Mahmoud Bawumia kasa ni popoti o mate o mo bo o nsem no. Bisa was ana o muntie nsema papa ne kana na de asofo mu ya asofo twitwiri die mo wa kekramo ne gina so de mu se o bompa ya ma ne so my president ade asempa ni. Sometimes I don't even know say Ghana no nipa na yete Ghana ho na adwen no se be enya adwuma na ase den kramoni o abegina asofo onim na asofo atwe o monsa ato ne so say ye bompa ya ma no na wa be ye president. Eyara hosem na mine the country called Ghana na yetim no empanyifo na ye yomo so me na leaders amabunu no ehwe o mo sometimes omutimi ye ne mabi wo ha odwen wa utimi ho say na nkrofo we di adwen kwa na do mutim anasa adwen no mo ni bi anasa dey because you don't even understand what they're trying to mean. Asofo twitwiri diefo asofo kukudamfo mo nim se National Cathedral na do so osie mama no eya aza no Mahmoud Bawumia be gina monim a ono se adada mo se mo ma ne be president a ono be pe means o de be si cathedral no na masa atwe mo nsa si no sisi ye mompa ye ma ona be president. Empire omoboy obi a ho nyama hi se maame na ogina nchen no. Sama maame no me maame na nka ne mebo no. Ne onna ne ho yema hi wo empire omoboy nyina mu. Asa wonte Ghana ho. O be gina papa we ni maka bomb pa ka afre Nyankopon se on strike ne down o to na o so na o yese mo se nya awurade Nyankopon ti se ne Nyankopon ye. O gina so le mu na we abato ho a adwuma mu nim ye no asofo Ghana asofo mo hweye because na da na ya doso mon kan no kre Nyankopon Bible nyese no ka se monye ense wo hwe ni panenim kan yente krache ye to abama the last 7.5 years 8 years ewurami amamo na mabu na enye ye nto aba ne mawo enti gya na ko why can't you just say this kind of thing straight away now wo say gina ho say wo bompa ya mane say Nyankopon me ne de Ubi san kwase dwuma we de Nyankopon ye. Dabi Ghana asofo mo hweye. Asofo kuku da mfo pa no. We nya kum chacha mo asofo de bi ni o. Akese fo pa asofo akese pa kuku da ma. The whole Ghana for respect mo we nya kwanche asofo ni bi ni. Se kwanche asofo bi na Mamudu Bawumia go to the classroom bi. E no ya dey we I have no problem with that. But we ma asoso akuku da mfo pa na yes adwuma we. Omusuru so meka no kore. Because omu nyina omusuru. Otimamu no kweka ayamoden asofo akukudamfo no kweka ayamoden mommo aman no omaman no entumpon unim no kre no wo se won ka no kre no anyway fanisa ha se wo to abama Mamudu Bawumia so me president a e wa wasem amenkan one or two messages bi aba Anthony Atoso Francisca says, so are they not living in the country? God have mercy on them. Francisca, I don't know. And I'm making maybe I don't want to go now. Papaya okita Mamudu Bawumia sa so no say would a day. Amanya so na ye mobo. Millicent say, is it right for a Muslim to be doing this? Just asking you. It is not right for a Muslim to be in the church doing this. The same way na any right for a Christian so sen kaboko Muslimi demo akoyewe. Me matana zongoda. When we were growing up, no, you don't even step there. You don't go there. Now, because of politics, and DBFN say, "Ye can't have but do you remember, say, when Nkrumah more lead, I invited His Excellency John Dramani Mama Kohono, Mamudu Bawumia Kosreno, a friend say, Malam John was there. If you remember that. No, Serenesa and a Christian India or money on Nkrumah program. I say, Mamudu Bawumia na no jina sorry them my yebon pa man no. He was asking John Mama say, Christian India or money on Nkrumah sorry them. Epacho Francisca said they should read Act number 5. Epacho Acts chapter number 5. Epacho dey never. Yeah, nkwa kan hwe my searching hwe. Me hwe ade kure ho. Na Acts 5, but 5 no 5 there. Enti se obetimi akere mo ama fere ye ho. Owusu Tuga say Ghanaian youth should rise up against wicked government. Yes, because so what can I say? One was away about Bunasa will say, oh, on Kasa. It was a kind Igananka. And a nation na ye building on so the youth no arm working one day or one day you will come to take the affairs of the governance. Either you become a president, a minister, assembly member, DCE, obey a headmaster, obey the. It's like you can become anybody in the society. And this is money because na say we again say wo nkasa. But Obama yasia da asia ma won nkyene. Na wode akwakoye ade a ensese nka wo no ufi say emmoa ewo wabrabo ma. Well, that is why they don't take us serious because a motia says, hey, adwuma na moye ye enti na moye. Ye enti na moye. Na say what na say kwa. Now that is why they've been doing all these kind of things to you. And what was that boss in Auto Rollins? Message be my member saying if I can also get the same message, then we all listen to in summer. Not doctors in Auto Rollins in that particular message.
Fourth uprising. It is a day of somber reflection because the conditions that led to the uprising are never far out of sight. And until we reach a point where those conditions that led to the June 4th uprising are no more present, we always stand the risk of repeating history. Ladies and gentlemen, as a member of Parliament, I stand here on behalf of the leadership of Parliament to also wish a happy anniversary, and not just to honor the memory of those whose lives were lost, but also to celebrate our presence here. I'm in Parliament today. We have a fourth republic today because the PNDC made it possible, and the PNDC was born out of the June 4th and 31st December. The blood that was shed on the following the 4th of June uprising must be a constant reminder of the ultimate price that others paid for values and principles to be restored. And it's not something we must celebrate. It is something that must serve as something on our consciences so that we do not lead ourselves into that situation where something of that nature can happen again. The years that we have enjoyed of stable constitutional rule are not by accident. The Constitution of Ghana was drawn up by ordinary members of this country who came together and decided what was going to be their version of the 10 Commandments. In the Bible, the Israelites traveled the wilderness for 40 years. In those 40 years, they complained. Why did Moses take them out? They had food when they were in Egypt. Did they ask to be taken out? They complained, why is it that we are getting this manna? It's so boring. We want meat. They asked why they were being brought away from that. The journey away from repression to your true liberation is not an easy journey. And there will be times when it will be difficult. There will be times when our leaders will have to shoulder the burden of responsibility and be brave enough for the rest of us. That is what leadership is supposed to do. And so if we find ourselves here today, in a country that has moved away from principles that we once held dear, that led a lot of people to sacrifice their lives, we are walking on treacherous path right now, and we must remind ourselves of those values and bring ourselves back onto the straight and narrow. Because the promised land was only made possible when the people remembered who they truly were. They were given the 10 Commandments, that is our constitution, to guide them as to what was right and proper for them to do. As we sit here and we have a parliament that passes the laws that are meant for the country, the enforcement of the laws is important, but as individuals, we must remember that no collective stands in isolation. Ghana is not Ghana without the people of Ghana. And therefore, the principles that we hold dear, we must not hold in abstract and say, these are the principles of June 4th. What are our principles as the people of Ghana? As individuals, when we wake up every morning, what are the things that drive us, that make us want to be a part of what we call Ghana today? How can we make sure that the blood that was shed before, that the sacrifices that people made was not for nothing? It is by being true to those principles, the principles that do not die, the principles that make a country great. Countries all over the world look back on their revolution days, whether it is the French or the Americans, and blood was shed. Let us not sit here in Ghana and pretend like those things did not happen. Those things happened so we can be where we are today. And it is not to celebrate death or bloodshed, but to remind ourselves of what happens when you push human spirit to a certain point, that point of a dignity that makes people become what they did not know they could become. If we look just around the corner, we see what happened in Liberia, we see what happened in Rwanda. They never thought they would end up where they did, but they did. Let us take lessons from that by God's grace and by the magnanimity of those who came before us, we never had to experience what Liberia went through, and may it never be so. Let us kindly live by those principles. Every day, every time we go to church, to the mosques, when we pour libation, when we pray, and we pray, let it not be only for the prayers that we pray to God, but also to remember how do we live up to those principles in our daily lives, because that is the only way we can make sure that Ghana moves forward in a sustainable way, that we don't have people who are living below the poverty line who can then be deceived by those who have money when it comes to time to vote. People must have a dignified experience of life. They must be able to support themselves so that if somebody comes to them and says, if I pay you, vote for me, they will look at the person and say, I have my own money. I will vote for you if you represent what I believe in. We now have an opportunity to vote every 4 years. Let us vote on things that we know are possible. We are discerning. We know what is true and what is not. Let us be guided by those principles in our choices of members of assembly, of members of parliament, of the executive. Let us not think that it is just 4 years and it will pass. A lot can happen in 4 years. So every time we go to vote for people, let us remember these are the people we are giving the authority to do what they are meant to do on our behalf. Let's make sure our leaders are accountable. There is no such thing as our buying. We are the ones who put everybody in office, and they must be accountable to us. And if they are not doing what we have asked them to do, we must ask them to give account, and they must do the proper thing. Comrades, this is a day that, like our deputy youth organizer said, we must use it to do that important soul searching and to start anew. There's a saying that life begins at 40. Perhaps we should look at this as an opportunity to restore what we believed in once upon a time, and make sure that the younger generation knows where we came from. When we look at our tradition, and we have people who are elders in our traditions always telling the story of where their people came from, it is so that the generations ahead do not forget the history, do not forget where we came from. And yes, our history is not always something pleasant, and it is not always something that makes us rejoice, but it is our history, and we must not run away from the reality of where we came from in order to make sure that we build a strong path towards where we want to be, because the future is only secured when we are honest about where we've come from and where we are today.
These were the words of Dr. Zenato Rollins, charging the youth to take your destiny into your own hands. Uko jisika, sika bwane, na uko tuaba, uo 4 years, odebe weye hon kwa sejuma. So we be jine we nimse tuaba mame, na we mise ni nyansa sem, na we can't just breaking the 8, na udi na china we ya, and then you see the problem. I saw this particular video, I think it's in Sabomo or something like that. Hospital in Suetono, they had to drag the patients out. Yes, in Su and then this same patient was breaking the 8. Meanwhile, when John Dramani Mahama was building better hospital facilities for you people thought say you could vote him out and bring in this inept government. Senior doctors in Nato Rollins Ekana, and agenda 111 buying we share obo under Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia when you are there another way. But your agenda 111 is see Edruhe. Oyare na hena woko. A buying for a area they seek for better healthcare outside the corridors of Ghana. Oyare, can you also come here? But what an answer against that kind of questions in order. Because I want to answer as a minor, Panifono do life a butcher scaler a cotiao. Obi or table cheater that the area ultimate better healthcare. Now, what again or no area do you get the same facilities? Pacho yam for you, John Kuma, any example, Yanko Pomfani credits there. John Kuma, according to history or sources, no area about 2 years or hospital Germany, Nahotono. The day John Kuma ba Ghana, Okodru in the constituency or Yari, he was about to be flown to Germany, saying, did you to the national airport? Like ever played the number Germany. But between the Kurumo and the Accra, when Timan survivor and look to the airport and for play, what arguments had an order? Never understand. I'm a member of parliament area. Okwa Buchiriba and Hotono. No more Yara didn't talk Ghana ambulance in Keken when Nuakra Uye. Ambulance names Nuakra. At a point, they had to stop somewhere because a quiet no crown out the car Namson Kwan, it's me. We are Timaninia. Some of us are not making noise because we need something from you. No, we don't need anything from you. But what that change was a catch it. And the one was a politics in the Kremoni. I oil Haji wa Komeka, Agina so them now suffer. Because he just want to become president. Ayazan, Matreke, Wayazan, Unya president, we are on Sihubim. When him National Cathedral, you for play call Israel say for abo and the beto National Cathedral Foundation. The pacho ecosystem. Eyesikana was enka ye support to odache o yara ye more better healthcare na te for no and the for play call sa abo say the basic cathedral na dan to kuru da ho. Cathedral na adan to kuru da ho. So was our life in the teacher scale. And now Ghana, life expectancy rate of Ghana is declining because unya be na papa ni unya su papa nom we are healthcare papa be any ho kwanya onam so enye intutuo and now you su car Ghana emisi no utu emission tax because so say emission tax no what do they actually use it for? Yeah no because abani fiscal jedi COVID-19 about come, yet you are paying tax on COVID-19. We are not daytime robbery. A chronobona by we being led by Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as Ghana's head of economic management team, boss no, at the whole butcher scale. Yet, Okine who are not by country says, woman will not be a president or more tax amnesty. What a wow! A very, very, very insulting. I'm all these videos I'm not playing and say Obi and answer for fun. I just want you to listen to Nipa Corona or Kano and in Sema or Kano. Then you make your own informed decisions. Say what to Obama and I want to Obama.
GRA and so many businesses and individuals are always in fights over their tax liabilities. And our tax system is too complicated. Sometimes they will bring a tax bill to a business or an individual and they don't even know how it was calculated. And they will tell you if you don't pay, we'll shut down your shop. And they shut down many shops. And so I want a tax system that is easy to understand, very easy to enforce, easy to comply with. I had my team do the research and we looked at all the tax systems in the world to see which is the most tax efficient and most tax competitive. We found that Estonia, the country of Estonia, was the most tax competitive country in the world. The last 10 years, every year they are number one. So I said, what is happening in Estonia? I took a team and we went to Estonia. Went to meet the president, the prime minister, the revenue authorities. We had a series of meetings. And I came back very convinced that Estonia, the model of Estonia is a flat tax system. Flat tax. If it's 10%, everybody is paying 10%. There's no complication in that calculation. It's 10%. It's like when we go to church and we have to pay tithe. Right? The tithe is 10%, isn't it? Everybody knows how much it is. It's easy to calculate. Sometimes you don't even need a calculator to calculate the 10%. So Estonia has found that this flat tax system has really helped them in making sure everybody is covered in paying the tax, because everybody knows that this is how much you have to pay. So you know your tax. There's no kululu in that matter. It's clearly defined. And therefore, next year, if by the grace of God I am president, we want to introduce the flat tax system. But to start it, I want everybody to start on a clean, fresh plate. Everybody to be on the same page. So next year, we will offer a tax amnesty to all businesses. Forgive all your taxes for businesses and individuals, and we will start on the same page for all businesses and individuals, so that we will get a lot of forgiveness. In fact, a few weeks ago, I went to the Vatican to have audience with His Holiness the Pope. And then after my meeting with the Pope, our Cardinal Peter Texin, who is there, took me around the Basilica to show me different parts of the Basilica. And when we were going around, there were some people doing some work somewhere. And I asked, what is going on here? Cardinal Texin told me, we are making preparations for next year. It is the Jubilee year. I said, what is the Jubilee year? What does it mean? He says, well, this is the year where there's a lot of forgiveness in this year. I said, that is good. Then that means 2025, I'm also going to forgive taxes in Ghana. And it is very consistent with the Jubilee year. So we will have that. And the tax amnesty will be a good injection to many businesses, because it will take off this burden of taxes that they are faced with at the moment, and it will really relieve them. And the next issue I want to deal with in our tax reform is our import duty regime. I found out that there is a problem that, maybe was inadvertently created over the years.
Enti, that was Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Or say, Ghana's tax system is very complicated. Mahmoud Bawumia na economy patch. I did not say these kind of things. Now, so no bad by President 2025. Waba Estonia. Abe who say Estonia was doing reforms, or Estonia is doing very well in their tax system. Enti, or those reforms no be suya Estonia no. Ghana. And it is true, Mahmoud Bawumia was recently in Estonia. But Finland currently, so Estonia is very close to me here. Until when he came there, whatever they said, whatever the meeting they had, your Ghana for a while, we know them. Your Abrofuni, we know them. So we in Monsema, of course. So Mahmoud Bawumia is telling Ghanaians, say, well, who's the Estonia tax system a flat rate? But on the president in the chief for 8 years, Oman Wenyaba. Oman Saba Wenyaba 8 years, 16 good years, and one not even fast reforms number. But Nyango Pompam Gudio. Say woman acquired by president at 2025, or be implemented flat tax system in Ghana. Also, Assembly Bill has said, "I'm going to yatem Didi Pao." I said, Mahmoud Bawumia Kaise, or the vice president. In this particular video picture, Mahmoud Bawumia, the Prime Minister of Estonia, in a general, if you have a picture, come. Mami whoever Mahmoud Bawumia are in his suit, up on the tie, come. Or say, they are for a plane by Estonia between air tax system. And Mahmoud Bawumia was not any team ever played ever Estonia, ever there, Estonia businessmen in the government to learn the tax system. I don't know where the plane away. If I plane away, we go school Estonia. Ghana for Dr. Kweku Munyinego went man from to do this research with you, but you take Ghana's whole plane, pack people in. Abba Estonia 3 days over, and also be some say, can't benefit from your tax. Now, all be president implemented the same thing. Oh, Ghana, yeah, mobodo. Ghana, yeah, mobodo. Etisika so come the another kind of no correct. Yes, a mining kind of group where she free with no reason. What she Ghana is kind of I said do attempt so many be president and idea or not the Ghana as vice president or the Ghana seeking in about Estonia be research no or no implementing it for now. But man the man be president and no be implemented. Sometimes Ghana we know Ghana say no way no. One got to just say chotu because nipa be end to aba no. That is what I know. Ebedu we in Ghana for do na end to aba. And I know very, very well someone to aba. Because when you listen to this kind of people talk, now do your machi, now to aba money we say what offer a chartered flight. As a delegation yogum, abedi 3 days for Estonia, over here also be Estonia tax system. The whole vice president the national security about Estonia population 1.3 million. 33 million plus for being the vice president for 8 years now. What about 1.3 million also be share tax system? Now be president and I'll be implemented. Anyway, breaking the 8. Oba I was 4 more to do more. And I'm a man he should get 4 more to do more. Out of the 4 more, or the be tax system to break the 8 or tax amnesty. Into say wa pope holy pope or kasa. It is or Vatican or who say your church there into obey president. Oh, say Ghana. Sometimes if I might be wrong. Mahmoud Bawumia going to where old to Niano. And on one bottom sican or the 2 coin and after the guy is getting 2 coin. But I want and you can give it to me. Mahmoud Bawumia obviously call Vatican no. Or the Ghana kind of and also they want personal money and a coy. Estonia now he came with his team no. Was it Ghana's resources and I say or one Casanedia? If it is Ghana's resources, why is he not implementing it for now, but also be a president in the future and obey implemented? Then the other question I say, Mahmoud Bawumia rounds no call Ghana Ninyano. Why in the 8 years because we need to be looking at all these kind of things. So be a vice president, not also a president the dia. M1 who come and call around the whole Ghana. So with my president, so I don't even know. Have you been thinking about all these kind of things? But all these kind of things, say I mean society na ye building, the people will be using the resources little resources na DC hospital my little resources I said dear papa, little resources I say DC school, little resources I say the medical doctors and health nurses. Then I say for then they will be misusing it or misapplying it on serious venture. Yet after that, they will just come and then insult you on top. So what I say? So that is something I've been thinking. Say, what do they actually think? Do they see Ghanaians as fools or as reasonable people or what? I don't even know. I've been thinking, I've been in America, so if you also have the answer, you can also come on board. Because Bawumia top Ghana playing in Estonia. Now also no idea or implementing it for now. Now man the crime money be president come 2025 and obey implement here. It is the biggest insult of all time in Tibida. Bawumia is not the ordinary person. NPP for Ato Abamani so made the party no. He is the current vice president. The current vice president. And for that matter now, head of Ghana's economic management team by convention. What I say? It's Ghana sika sama atopaha. And I say for nyano. Mahmoud Bawumia edano. The president of the land, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Emma Ghana for United said the reason why, the number one reason why, or the Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia a partner no. For 8 years in opposition, 8 years of my power, and said Mahmoud Bawumia are very good at managing economy. The neighbors are met to Ghana because according to Nanado, His Excellency John Mahama Ghana Sikan aye hata and what did be him. And here can be. And I made Mahmoud Bawumia air so Mabwamani to Ghana Sika Samuye. Mahmoud Bawumia said they began and another than a buy, another than about solely for digitalization. It is a economy there. I feel no number will see economy no what's them. Oh man, be a president will be implement economic policies on him. These are not my words. These are the words of Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. These are the words of Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. It is also a woman a man be a president and a nema or no unim about economy no or be implemented. Mahmoud Bawumia said, "Oh man, be a president 2025 or be implemented economic policy." But for now, on the any economic policy, it's not the buy. And he said, "Who him the reason why Mahmoud Bawumia ba?" You go and tell him, say, "Hey, Krache, and how does what the whole back?" So he said, "But we're gonna see Casemi. Now what Nasia Nani or Moya Gane? Moya Gane. Aye. Adia Moya Gane in the aye, Mahmoud Bawumia." Anyway, say, Adia Mopenano. For more to do more. Now, for more no, unru baby o. Na ube do for more no muye no. Na ube hu. Macho, ya ngone ene sika engwa twetwe nkomo ye wie ne ba. Ye be ko attorney general ene oyi gudu. Na ye ko bisa nsa attorney general e de ene how. Na ya.
Mine home. And the Ghana, it's very painful. We should think about the poor. Of mine home. And the Ghana, it's very painful.
Someone who know. Finance Minister, Deputy Nebako, no. I say it's very painful. Ghana, this was when he was in opposition. Osu. Ghana, ya mobodo do. Owe ni habana. Ote fuck off na tade she ono say important nti. Se Ghana sika 7 na say ya na betimi aka. Always Royal, me that's it. Always Royal is one of the best people. So far, I started channeling or tie HME actually. Me who say Always Royal HME. Sika £5, £2, a lot. I like Always Royal style very, very well. Now, moving on, about your channel, 1 hour with the movie. So when you subscribe, you'll be to me, subscribe to platform. Tell me about the online piano. What's a epic coming? About your any year, Jakpa, any agency, me one say, Nanado don't go for the buy, no. Now, Oshagana for was NDC for Abokorono into about betchi NDC for the Mogum. No bedu yen waya unyebi. I took force in honorable, I took force in Cotton Parliament, the way I took force in air punch your mono. And another ne finance, the then finance minister can overattack a fair go for dame, the attorney general say, hey, I took force in air higher again. Now looking at the posture of Ato Force, and we are that Ato Force in bit maybe president of Ghana. Because Ato Force in air conducting him very, very carefully. Me, I'm very sure that one day Ato Force in bit me, I will lead the NDC. To become the flag bearer of the party. And looking at the way Ato Force and air conducting home, wait my be president that be that. And the young means be able to be there disgrace Ato Force and the charges be prep as charges be na factor so. Now winning. These are my so ambulances be. Pacho medical can say car be any be as a friend ambulance. Ambulance na who is an empty van. Na nema odi be gum no. And my friend ambulance no. The same way I'm said, die be any my friend hospital. But the amount of good dinum, I'm a doctor at them, not patients, it's me who mama akoja yarasana, and friend hospital. And the NDC car buy, and the equipment buy, it be do NPP for our neighbor. Must say, Modia Mompe, cast no. Into more charges, the deputy finance minister, the then deputy finance minister said on the cultural letter say, Bank of Ghana, Emma letters of credit to the importer into more than a court. The finance minister then here said, "Tekwe akojina court adaka maka say, hey, me na me ma to force in choro letter no. Enya to force na the delay petrol into bibia mo bisame. Anado Bawumia go for dame and if the then finance minister say omode da bi to force ya no mo pe no. Ntom that forcing Akujina court together with the importer Akujina court. Now we didn't know say behind the scene, no. Godfrey Dame, the Attorney General, could have all his in a way, no. Tries to be convinced Jakpa, who is the then importer and as a company or the ambulance in Ebano, or more rep organ and say, only Trungu out of forcing, so name fat supporting Kotum because Anado and the then finance minister said, Modern person that forcing Kotum. Because at force how more parliament and 2 they know at force between be president that should be. He didn't know say Jakpa was recording him. Domaka du level be a Jakpa on court records a woman say at of Godfrey Dame Attorney General a convincing of so they at force to neutral witness ultimately. Then Jakpa go ahead at the documents Akojina court say me wa dance dia chese papa we say omukuduru ha eji adoje wamba yankone ngo bisa yewra Jakpa say eji wamba court any doje na sefoi and then no and then why did you even record AG? Because according to AG, they recording no illegal. A BM no or say what you tape necessary any tape now or whatever out no a doctor tape. A patch of young Jakpa, Jakpa interviewer on a joy for ye. If we are about to also.
Do you expect Mr. Godfrey Dame to be in court today? Is that your expectation?
Well, he's supposed to be in court because he's Attorney General. And this issue is personally between he and I. You know,
if he doesn't show up, how would you feel if he doesn't show up?
The court to determine that.
Mm-hmm. So again, you want to reiterate that at the end of the day, you would be exonerated. You are not going to jail.
Because I'm an innocent man.
What do you make of the position that the tape you put out is a doctored tape?
Well, they are claiming it's a doctored tape. I didn't say that. So they should bring the original. They should tell the original to court.
But why did you record the Attorney General?
Well, that is not for you.
He says you've been disingenuous.
But that's what he claims.
That it was a private. It was a private.
Prosecuting innocent people. Who is disingenuous?
It was a private conversation, and now you put it out.
You claim it's a private conversation.
That's what he says.
Well, a private conversation, when it's a conversation that leads to committing crimes, it can no longer be private. It becomes a crime against the state. So it can no longer be private. So that private claim is neither here nor there.
The bottom line is you didn't tender that in evidence.
I'm not a lawyer. My lawyer knows his strategy. And he understands the court processes more than I do. So he's doing what is required by him. He has got his own strategy. And I cannot dictate to him his strategy.
So at the end of the day, you expect that you're going to walk?
Well, there must be justice. And I'm here seeking for justice.
So justice, anything other than you walking free will be injustice?
I cannot decide that I'm walking free. It is her ladyship who will decide based upon the evidence I used before her. The evidence will lead to that. And I know she's going to hold fidelity to the law. And that's what is expected of her. And that's exactly what I know she'll be doing. So I don't have any issue at all.
Are you looking forward to a face-off between you and Mr. Godfrey Dame?
No, it can't be a face-off.
Face-to-face, let me put it that way,
no,
face-to-face.
There's no need for face-to-face. We are dealing everything in court. My lawyers will deal with it.
In court, in court.
But how cannot cross-examine him? My lawyer will do that. So there's nothing like face-to-face.
Have you seen him?
It's an issue of evidence against evidence. You see, the game is about evidence, that is all.
Have you seen him since you put out the tape? Have you seen the Attorney General after putting out the tape in the public domain?
Not at all.
Has he reached out to you?
Not at all.
Have you reached out to him?
Not at all.
So there was a CJ, Justice of the Supreme Court involved. Has he reached out to you?
Not at all.
There were many who they believe that you actually thought about you wanted to record the Attorney General, that's why your voice is so loud.
Well, that is their opinion, they're entitled to their opinion.
Okay. So how's the feeling now that the whole thing is out? Now you are the man in town, everybody is talking about this in Jakpa.
Well, I'm focusing in court. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. As for public opinion, I've not spoken to the public. I'm dealing with the court.
What kind of reception do you get after this whole thing?
Oh, normal.
NT media men from Joy, credit to Joy, Kushia Yebre Jakpa, El Cortacase. In a quarter by Attorney General Mo, or Smile, Attorney General answer or no play hide and seek or dodge. Now, dear Quentin, I will record Attorney General. Attorney General said tape and I will record a doctor tape. Almost every time, for sometimes I've been thinking, so okay, the media personnel and agent Papa Yenim, and then the kind of question you be Papa, I say, I've been over from Kakra. The whole Joy FM media presenters will be sorry to say silly questions. I say questions, and you don't even understand what they're trying to mean by the question, because what they were trying to seek is they want to undermine the integrity of Papano, of Jakpa. To say, why do you record this? You know, and I will say, prison there doesn't mean say there is no justice. And I say, prison that there is injustice. What kind of silly questions were that? Papa or documents or evidence actually say Attorney General Beijing and names or no onye bonibia na yato forcing and omuhiano, and that he is even taking ato forcing to court because Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and then Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and say on prosecuting ato forcing, and all these are court records. Then you are asking him say, "Na say ya the next that doesn't mean there's injustice." Now I didn't know person Jano when there's justice. What was that kind of silly journalist organ now? As all my being Juma. And you'll be asking the childish questions. We mean I assume to go to court to cover court proceedings. Or could do court or American on Tiaske. A whole Joy will send these silly journalists to go there and be asking silly questions. Questions and answers. Well, that is how we build Ghana. Until we are banner there, the caption, then they divert the attention of the whole nation onto this kind of silly and nuisance questions of beside. Is that how we build a society? We don't build societies like that. We build societies with intelligent people. And that is why we have laws and rules and regulations in the system. Say, Yebema peri aye juma. Masamiti hai Attorney General Beijing my name is Minimisa Winya Bonibia, but when you went into the trogun so now make us say there be satron and be conscience and far. Then you come back to asking me, say, I didn't hear the make to my I didn't end the justice. I've been here, Juma, why will you be saying all these kind of things? And sometimes the kind of journalists we have in Ghana are a problem people. There was this particular video I saw Kwame Sefakai, a seasoned journalist of Peace FM, and Nana Kwame Mediacom. And was trying to debunk the notion say there is continuous registration in Ghana, and Nana Kwame Mediacom said there's nothing like that. Kwame Sefakai any Peace FM for you or minimum or mate say Ghana yeah continuous registration. Yes, or more free. Dr. Serebo Kweku, I will say there's nothing like that. And the Kwame Sefakai more contains us in a way. Well, with a motive Peace FM, seasoned journalists, then they lie to Ghanaians and they misinform Ghanaians to be making decisions MY Ghanaians. These are the so-called better journalists in Ghana. I want to. Yes, Millicent, they are all working for NPP. Because on himself, then Kwame Sefakai was so sure, say, or person or undermine Kwame and now Kwame Media to say winning because I didn't cause to Ghana. Yet Dr. Serebo Kweku came back to say that we are in Ghana, and now we are now thinking about it. So the question is, Kwame Sefakai, what is happening nowhere? And no being a Joy FM for Yakujina, Ibra, Richard Jakpa, anyone way or court on trying to undermine its integrity. Yet they lack wisdom in asking serious questions for the society. Because when you listen to this kind of journalists and then the captions they give to this kind of interviews are, I'm misinformed. I'm a worker coach. You should be to say Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as your president. I was before 2016 election, these people will not say I don't know you, and that is why Ghanaians trusted Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and voted for NPP. Oh, maybe a Nede Ghana do. Well, 1 hour the movie and then we do this. I always come live 1 hour, and then just that I've changed the location to my maybe I didn't stream at the office. I just came somewhere and me decided and I'm just doing this live stream from home and it's my balcony. So if you think that there was the quality of the video because the location was the balcony of my how the whole place looks like. And see. This is where I was streaming from the balcony. See, if you see, as the light, the natural light changes, and so will the quality of my video keep on changing. Into on fine chairman. Now, maybe I'll try to bring a better system onto you. I have this question that somebody has been asking me how I live stream it. One of the days in Ozonometre, how I live stream, but I don't think it's that difficult thing. We need to be transparent and then stuff like that. And all these kind of things. We buy a lot of gears, a lot of expensive things to live stream. You get a better sound and other things. And sometimes I go out and then shoot some videos also. I will one day bring on all these kind of things. You all know how we live stream and things like that. But maybe for my sound, I have Rodecaster. That is what I've been using. So I use the Rodecaster, and then I use that to be switching the cameras and other things. If any 8-10 minutes. So I have a lot of GF. One day I will just get some better video, and then I show you one of how I live stream and other things. And then if I'm working outside and so on, I use my DJI Action 4. I've been using that also. But I will take my time to get a video, because that kind of question, I'll address it, because that is how I live stream. And see, me do we be asking, well, we now. And then when we turn Biana, Medawasi, Yamea Doma, Ochina, Yebesan Abba. And also, I may answer this kind of question. So if Bawumia doesn't win the election, can I say he caused financial loss to the state? Well, looking at things, so the Ghana is around there, or cause financial loss to the state already. And that is something we need to do. And then the Kwame Sefaka is still a journalist. Yeah, he says he's a journalist. He's also in Bibia or Ghana. So we take them like that. And, let's take these kind of people like that. And I'll be back again. Maybe with a better view. But I think my quality is a bit dark. But because I don't have the studio light and other things here, just that everything is okay. And see, the way I'll bounce back. But don't go to Chima easy NPP for, because the Chima South NDC for say Omanya signal be say NPP for Riabanum or more get some vote transfer be cost what the Chima they don't like into Omidi do Bobby again Gamie the Yanko Namediano area.
Yenim the Chima Sani is to Jakpa, Sani Yatna. Now, you're about 2020, but you're some because what? Well, to young for a phone, Papa, young woman police, young woman soldier, being your come once and young woman minister. Yatari have a far back room, 2024. That's why I didn't try your 30 years as a transfer. I didn't try the Papa Master transfer. Yatın entetisam, yenim entetisam ni yate. Say ba ko for the profit baby. So ya NDC, so ya CPP, so ya MPP, so ya PNC. Yenim nipa ni yedi sa dwuma. Yedi say ya ma otrabu kwaku a ya fra botuwa. Koka wosom kasia aya brania wo wata jima ha. Wo botuwa ya jimu ya firim. Yedi say ya ma ni baba ni bia so ya police ni soja ni shelter ni be decide to maya ana MPP NDC PNC party bia ni edi akire a wo disa boni pata de tuma mane ya to ya ba to na sunduam na ni pa bi ba amaya se mu kakra no atututo abama ma ya krofo bi ba je ga sa ni pa ma wo sasa aka naga kirabi na yedo iwan na so at 2024. What's why I throw? Be a go for the free baby, so much ready not to abanti and this. Yeah, no man. What is that? Why I go for now? Babia, Casatra over. The same idea before me, young good fat. Trabaku, the Babia, the Bachachira, Saba Quen, TNDC. Yes, I got what? Yademount. Oh, Jensaya, Jenabuffo, and the Babia, the Abaquatia, someone met people there at here and this is what it's my Saya the Mount. Yakuko, ya de ma wuti so ni ko ba de o de ni mo
pa ma ni ye nti na ko
ya pa ma ni yo ya ko ni ya de ma so ni pa bia ye nti na de papa de ma ne ho lo ka no ba ko ti ndi ti dia o jwa ko ku ja ku ko
So I tell you the Quran was about Kuno. One should also now say what answer they have. What that question won't what's the way to put on the end? Okay.